All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome, welcome. I am live. We are live. It's another episode of G Boot 2786. Gavin Reshaw presents. It seems like since Sunday, it's really starting the weekend. It's been breaking news, and breaking news. Sunday we had Saturday, I think the Mueller report was released that Friday. Then Sunday morning, it was Friday actually. Then Sunday morning, the summary is released. They found no collusion with Russia. Then Monday, on yesterday, we had Michael Avenatti being charged with several counts of extortion against Nike. You know who Michael Avenatti is. He's been famous for representing Stormy Daniels, and then he's represented supposedly some of these women with R. Kelly, and he gets arrested for extortion. And maybe that might be good for R. Kelly in Chicago. And speaking of Chicago, which brings us to our next breaking news, is that it has been reported that it's all over the news now that Jussie Smollett, I called him Musty Jussie last time, uh, and I'll get into my video that I did previously. But he has been, I won't say exonerated, but his charges were all dismissed by the prosecutors in Cook County, same prosecutors that are prosecuting the R. Kelly case. Now, what was interesting is that Kim Fox is the woman who came forward, uh, the prosecutor after the Surviving R. Kelly series, that anyone that knew of uh, anything that R. Kelly did to come forward because she was looking to make a case. And when Jussie Smollett was being investigated, especially over lying about this alleged attack, this alleged hoax, I still believe this was a hoax that he perpetrated, but he was not charged with any. Well, he was charged, but he's not going to be prosecuted with anything. But nevertheless, she recused herself, if you remember, at the time this investigation, and he was being indicted by the grand jury. She wanted no part of it, which is interesting. And now that Jussie has been released and he's not going to be prosecuted for this, the Chicago Police Union is calling for an investigation in this matter. Both Rahm Emanuel and Eddie Johnson, the superintendent of Chicago Police Department, Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, he was also an advisor to President Barack Obama. That's the link to the Fox News article. They call this a whitewash of injustice, but I call bullshit on Mayor Emanuel and Superintendent Johnson for this reason. When you say a whitewash of injustice, and I'm not defending Jussie Smollett per se, but he is innocent until proven guilty. Did you have the same reaction, sir, with Laquan McDonald? With the other, not even Laquan and McDonald. Let's talk about the countless murders that have happened in Chicago that the police department hasn't solved. I don't think you acted the same way. You know, you, your police chief, your attorney general at that district attorney at that time. I don't believe it was Kim Fox that was there, but you all covered up the murder of Laquan McDonald and Jason Van Dyke, who basically got charged with third-degree murder and is going to walk out in probably another year, probably sooner than that, depending on what his appeals does. You didn't call it a white wall, and frankly, I'm disappointed you even got reelected, sir. I don't know how or how this man, and I'm telling all my people in Chicago, because I've heard stories about Rahm Emanuel. People didn't like him. I remember the reelection campaign that was coming up. There were people saying he should not get reelected. You know, Minister Farrakhan spoke out against him. He spoke out against the district attorneys. I believe there was a chance to recall him, and he wasn't. People allow it to go on. I don't anybody in Chicago, if you're not registered to vote, please register to vote. Okay. If you're going to vote, vote locally. because you're more impacted by what goes on by your local and state officials than you are by your feds. Of course, when you talk about the electoral college, when you vote for president, you're really voting for the electorate president. And obviously, if you live in a state like I do, like Louisiana, even if I voted Democrat, or I'm really moving away from the Democratic Party, I'll be honest with you, I'm more independent now because I feel the Democrats take African American, Black Americans for granted. They have not done anything. They have us on a plantation mindset, and I don't think Republicans are any better because Republicans outright ignore blacks. They do not address our issues because they don't know they do not need us. Although I've, in recent years and things that I've seen actually more conservative Republicans be open to talking to black people about certain things rather than the Democratic Party. I saw a video where a member of the Congressional Black Caucus was asked about reparations, and he outright displayed it. And this is a black man, and this is an old Negro. Okay, he saw Jim Crow. He knows about segregation. He knows about, sure as hell, as old as he was, he knows about slavery. So I don't see why these men would be opposed to it. But that's the type of mindset that we have. And if they're going to keep doing this, these John Lewis's, the Maxine Waters, and I'm being real. I don't care what their track record is in the civil rights movement. That's fine, but I'm not going to keep supporting you off of that. Your time is up. If you're not about the agenda of your people, if you are just here to bash Trump and not put out any resolutions that you want for the community, we don't need you. You can be gone. And getting back on, and to get back on subject, you know, Rahm Emanuel was Barack Obama's advisor. And a lot of people I think threw their weight behind him because Obama did, support him. But this thing with Laquan McDonald really left a black eye on the city of Chicago. In Chicago, they've always talked about how corrupt it can be with the police department. We know about Mark Clark and Fred Hampton, what happened in the 60s. And people, even with the Jussie Smollett thing, was trying to compare Jussie Smollett to that. I know his supporters were all like, well, remember, this is Chicago. Don't rush to judgment. But, these same people did it with Bill Cosby. These same people did it with, R. Kelly, with Michael Jackson. When they heard an accusation, you see mostly of our feminists, these black feminists that are throwing their weight behind them, supporting these movements that basically are about attacking straight men in particular, but black men, well, straight men in general, but black men in particular. And Justice Smollett is not straight. You know, I've heard that the Smollett family, they're connected. I do know that his father is Jewish, not stating uh, anything against Jewish people. I don't want that out there that because I'm saying this, but he does come from that background. I do know that it's true. Jews do stick together, as do Arabs, as do Mexicans, as do practically any group you're talking about. LGBT, unless you're black, because even the LGBTQ community, they haven't been there backing Jussie Smollett with what's been going on. Um, per se. So I really truly believe that there was, in regards to Jussie, I think he caught a break. I don't know what they had because when you read the statement, here's the statement from the police, okay? From the prosecutor's office. Excuse me, I didn't say, I said police. This is their statement. In a statement, the Cook County Prosecutor's office offered no detailed explanation. After reviewing all of the facts and circumstances of the case, including Mr. Smollett's volunteer service in the community, an agreement to forfeit his bond to the city of Chicago, we believe this outcome is a just disposition and appropriate resolution to this case. This was from a statement from spokeswoman Simonton, Tandra Simonton, spokesperson for the Cook County Prosecutor's Office. So you think about this now for a second. When you say community service, that's something that's usually done after an incident. As an attorney, I know for a fact when you're talking about community service, normally what happens is that when there is a charges that are pending against you in court, and pre-trial diversion programs that the prosecutor's office has. Obviously doing community service also if you have to class, depending on what the charges are. Usually, if it's a drug charge, if it's domestic violence, they make you take domestic violence classes. If it's DWIs, they make you take a class on DWIs and go to an intervention program where you go every other week or so, whatever the time frame is. Same thing with drugs, marijuana. You go to a class. You know, and you do some community service, they will consider that. Now, everything that has been going on, and I've said before, I thought the man was lying because some stuff that he was saying as to what happened didn't make sense. And also his behavior afterwards, like calling his manager before calling the police, keeping the noose on, even when the police come there. It's not something if it's I could see the police came immediately and he called them, but it took, I think, a couple hours before he did call them. The other thing was, when Taraji P. Henson, and I remember we were talking about this beforehand, when she said her baby was assaulted and it was tweeted out, although I don't think Taraji tweeted that, that was probably her handlers. The main thing she talked about was buying his music, the best way to support him. The other thing, too, was the reaction from his story about the MAGA hats and, a bottle of bleach, all of that, just who would carry that at 2 o'clock in the morning, looking randomly for someone while there's a polar vortex that's coming to Chicago. All of that didn't make any sense to me. I know that Harvey, shout out to him from Your World, has stated that it's not as cold as a lot of people thought it was because we used to it, but it still seemed odd. And yeah, strange things do happen. Yeah, people do go out at night, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, they will get some grub. And, Subway is one of those places I don't know. It's not my cup of tea that I would go to Subway at 2 o'clock in the morning. Then again, I don't know any that are around here in New Orleans, in particular, the East, that are 24 hours. Neither here nor there. It's over with. It's done. He's been exonerated. I really didn't know what to believe because the stories kept changing. And the other thing, too, is the two brothers that supposedly gave this information to the cops, they weren't prosecuted. Are they going to be prosecuted now? See, we haven't even determined that because supposedly they gave state's evidence, but now the state is stating we're not going to prosecute this case. We don't want nothing to do with it. So what happens to them? Apparently it looks like he's going to be back on Empire. They were on hiatus for a little bit. I know a new episode aired, but they're saying now it looks like Jussie will be coming back. He was not he was not found guilty on this, so by law he is presumed innocent. And let's be real, as I stated earlier with the Van Dykes, that's the way the law works. You do it with us. You can commit murder and lie and cover it up, like they did with Laquan McDonald. This happened in 2015. They had the video. The mayor didn't want to, the mayor, the district attorney, and the police chief, they covered it up. They didn't want to release it to the public because they knew what was on there. They knew what was on there. They knew what was going to happen. So Rahm Emanuel is more upset with Jussie Smollett getting acquitted and exonerated, but not upset at himself or his police officers for this young man's murder. As far as I'm concerned, and Rahm Emanuel is a Democrat, that's even more reason for blacks not to vote Democrat. That's even more reason to consider forming our own parties. It's even more reason to say, you know what? Let's recall this man. I don't care if he's got one more year in office or two. He needs to go. And for that matter, if Miss Superintendent Johnson, he should go too. I would say the same thing if this happened in New Orleans and any if it was a black mayor that covered it up. If you covered up something like this, you knew about it, you either should be in jail or you got to go. If you were trying to obstruct justice, that's another thing. They didn't want, uh, you know, I don't think the charges against Jason Van Dyke were even being brought until that video got released, and yet they knew. They had to have seen it. They had to have seen this video. And post something in, and you should see what's going on now. The white folks are upset that this man walked. you know, they talked about the money. Now he forfeited his bond, which was 10 grand, which is nothing. $10,000 is not a lot of money. When you pay a bond, guys, if it's let's say it's $100,000 bond on 2 counts of armed robbery, you basically pay 10%. Usually is placed on an individual when they are, accused of a crime. When they're accused of a crime and they're indicted, and they're brought before a judge, they'll have a bond hearing to see if there's probable cause, and they look at uh, what are the factors into either granting this bond or denying it. So what you do in the community, your ties in the community, the nature of the crime, uh, your ability to pay, whether you're a flight risk, all of that is considered. And obviously Jussie has money and so forth, but was he and they put a bond. I think it was 100,000 bond. He paid 10 grand. He had his family there that supported him. Like I say again, they were connected. I've heard that Jussie Smollett's father, I know he comes from a black mother and a Jewish father. So, I'm hearing stories. I don't know how true it is. And I'll just say this: I originally thought he was guilty. I still believe that he lied, but he's innocent, and I go by and respect the law. Always said that he deserved to have his day in court, and he was innocent until proven guilty. He's not going to have to worry about having a day in court because they've done what's called no pros. There's no prosecution, so he better just count his blessings that there's no prosecution in this matter, and he got off with it because it looked like they were going to make an example out of him. I thought charging him 16 times, excuse me, for 16 counts of lying was excessive in and of itself. But I did think he did that. I thought he probably would just take in a plea deal and do some community service and pay a fine anyway, which this basically is. And I've said that in my videos. So, you know, uh, and when we talk about lying and so forth, especially it being Chicago, the home of uh, Emmett Till, whatever, since we're worried about lying, and this is for members of the white community who are mad about Jussie Smollett getting off that I've seen on Facebook. I've seen in the comments section comparing him to OJ and so forth. They always got to throw that in there. If you go on Fox News, you can see all of the comments there. Uh, you could just see it. One person wrote, "I was so excited about President Trump being cleared. Now I angry all over again." This is what they actually wrote. Johnson should be fired. His department made up lies about Smollett. Why would Eddie Johnson make up lies? Jussie had that covered already. Oh, listen to this one. And we're gonna name this person. Obviously, they didn't put their picture up. They're too uh, ugly. But their name is Salaro21779. Smollett is one prime example among a daily million of why is it that blacks have never built and will never build a civilization worth anything, but they sure can bring down any, and they will try. Oh, yes, they will try. Oh, yes, they're trying hard everywhere. Yes, we have brought down lots of civilization. We have brought down civilization, and we've also, including things we built like Egypt, even Rome. We saved the Europeans from the Dark Ages with the Moors that were in Spain. What else am I missing, guys? You tell me some things. Apparently, Mr. Salaro21779 has all the answers on this Fox News link. You can go look at it. Of course, posting something from Fox News, I expected this, so it's not a surprise. But you know, oh, don't forget Timbuktu, something that we also built with the Gold King Mansa Musa. Don't forget the Egyptian kingdoms. Did I say that earlier? The Ethiopian kingdoms, the monarchy. That descended from years from, you know, the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon when they had Mensala, if I'm not mistaken, Mensolach, who was King Solomon's son, Queen of Sheba's son as well. Yeah, so yeah, can't ignorance can be fixed, but stupidity can't. So anyway, guys, I'm actually going over my time that I was going to do this, but I didn't want to follow up, and I'll just say in closing, thank you for subscribing. Please hit like this video, subscribe. Jussie Smollett is cleared as a free man. He better enjoy this, get some ice cream. Um, you know, and everybody just be mindful, be careful. If I were him, I would watch, count my blessings, and I would watch everything that I'm doing now, because eyes the eyes through uh, court on 16 counts. I thought that was excessive, um, but I didn't believe his story, and I still don't. But he says he's innocent. He is still innocent because there's been no trial, and it is what it is, guys. So I really didn't know what to make of the story because every day it was changing back and forth. But count your blessings where you're instead of sheep. Take care, guys. Be blessed, and we'll talk soon. Peace. Love you.